I'm Dorothy Colby, and in addition to working at Hale Ku'ike, I'm also a positive coach to care trainer. I do public workshops, and now, of course, they're all on the web, and I do the dementia care training for the staff at Hale Ku'ike as well. But in addition to that, I have a very close personal connection to dementia. I've had a number of different family members who have gone through the journey of dementia. My grandmother, who I will introduce you to in this webinar, she lived with Alzheimer's disease, and my father had vascular or stroke-related dementia, and my father-in-law, he had Parkinson's-related dementia. So they were three very different and unique individuals and three different causes of their dementia. So each of their journey was as unique as they were. So we have all gathered here today and taken this time out of what I know is a busy and often stressful time these days to come together to look at what is that journey? What is the journey that our loved ones, whether it's our family member or people that we love and care for professionally, where are they in their journey? What is happening with their changes in their brain throughout that journey? And what is possible in the future for the rest of their path of their journey? And how can we be there to help and support them whereas they need it at every step of the way, from the beginning to the very end of life. So this is our overview of what we're going to be going through. We're going to look inward also to see how our own thoughts and feelings affect how we perceive people who are living with dementia and how we help or maybe don't help sometimes. We're going to discuss the importance of language and words. And we're going to look at this, the description of this was GEMS. We're going to look at the Positive Approach to Care TPIS knows GEMS rating or rating scale to see where people are and what's different about the GEMS system as opposed to traditional dementia scales. And we will be looking in detail at each of the steps of the journey. And one of the big things we'll be looking at is, of course, it's very important to understand what is lost. And we're very keenly aware of that as things are changing, what things people can't do anymore, and there are many. But we also want to keep an open mind and heart to what's still left. What abilities are there? And there are many. And so how do we figure out what is still there, and how do we reach that, and how do we connect that way? And then we will also be having a question and answer period at the very end. We'll leave about 15 minutes for that. So before we get started, I am going to end this pre-test now. If you did not get a chance to participate in it, it is okay. It'll come up again at the end. So let me just take that one down here. Here we go. And we'll go right in. So one of the first things I just want to do a little quick overview here is we're all here around the topic of dementia and the journey of dementia. But to give us a common language, like what the heck are we talking about when we talk about dementia? And you'll see me wave my arms around a lot like this. And if you are not shy or are feeling bold in your office setting or at home, please wave your arms around as well. It really does help us as human beings remember what we're learning. Dementia is the big umbrella term. The umbrella term, it itself is not the disease or the diagnosis. It is a set of symptoms together that all the items that you see under the umbrella are causes of dementia. So you have Alzheimer's related dementia, which was my grandmother's, vascular, stroke related dementia, Lewy bodies, frontotemporal, and then all these ones on the right hand side. So you might have alcoholism here, football players, too many hits to the head is not good for your brain. So it's a very complicated picture. So a lot of times you think of it as one thing, but there are many, many different causes. They affect the brains differently. And you can have more than one. You can have a mixed picture dementia, as they call it. So I can have Alzheimer's disease and have a lifelong history of alcoholism, things like that. So each person who is living with dementia is unique in themselves and unique in their journey. And so I'm going to go forward just one more. And so we're going to, with the focus of understanding for us, we'll start with understanding what is really going on in the brain, because the journey of dementia is all about brain change. We think of it often as primarily memory loss or challenging behaviors, but all those things that we are seeing, all those changes we are noticing, all those challenges that we are having, all stem from the changes that those diseases under the umbrella, those things that are causing brain damage and ultimate brain death, are doing to the different segments of our brain that control everything about us. So this is a PET scan here. I wanted to give a visual overview of the brain changes here. So on the left-hand side here, these two brains, top and bottom, it's the same brain. One's a little higher slice up than the other one. This top part of the brain is the frontal lobe. If you touch the front of your head, this is your frontal lobe, your executive function center. And then in the back, this part here, touch the back of your head, that's your occipital lobe. And so the red is the hot, high firing, you're in the PET scan machine and they ask you to solve a problem. Name all the animals you can in a set amount of time, for example, and you can see where the high brain activity is. The blue, purple is the no brain activity or very low brain activity, and that is normal. We have pockets of our brain that are fluid, and that is perfectly normal. It's supposed to look like this. So the next brain over is someone who's living with early Alzheimer's disease. So if you take a look, think to yourself, what do you notice is different about the red, about the purple, about the light blue? What's changing? Less red, more blue and purple. So less hot activity, more inactivity. Now this is early. And so from the outside, a person living at this stage of living with dementia, well, they look like they did before, a very older person, more very likely, but you don't see the changes externally that you see here internally. Other diseases of organ failure, such as heart failure, lung failure, kidney failure, we often see external signs that let us know, like, oh, this person has COPD and I can tell they're having trouble breathing because they have a cannula on, or their posture is different and you see the labored breath. We know there is a physical impairment because of this disease process, but it's not obvious from the outside with dementia. And that's one of the things that makes it really, really hard to understand what is happening, because we cannot physically see those brain changes. What we see is the external behavior and perceptions and movements that are changing that let us know what's happening inside here. And then here's late Alzheimer's. So this is someone who's reaching closer to the end of life. And then the child here is an 18-month-old child. So if you look at, again, comparing the early and the late, again, we're seeing more changes in the brain. It's all about the brain change. So again, looking at purple versus and red, what do you notice? Red is getting smaller and smaller, and it's now down to our central, more primitive center of the brain, where our thrive to survive, the things that keeps us, the automatic bodily functions are preserved, and a little on vision here, and a little on our right and left temporal lobes with some language and things like that. So while there is quite a bit more purple and a lot less red, it is not none. It looks like, compared to this, that there's not much, but look at the child's brain. So this is an 18-month-old child, and we've all known 18-month-old children, and there is a lot that they do perceive in the world. They have a high amount of curiosity, and there's a lot of ways to connect with them, but using higher language is not generally one of them, and they have a lot of things that they can't do on their own either. So I want us to take a look at this and kind of challenge ourselves today to look at the person who is reaching the end of their life with dementia, in this case, in this brain, Alzheimer's. They are who they were, but they're different. Their brains are different, but they are who they were. And we can reach them. There is life and there is a heart all the way through the end. And we're going to look at each stage from this normal aging brain to the early, all the way through the end, to see how we can still find them and see them all the way through and help and support them as they need. Because with the changes going more blue than red, they are going to need us. We are the ones who have the healthy brains, and so we are going to make up for what they have lost. And together, we can uh, come through, go through this journey of life. So just as a quick physical glance at the brain, so this is a normal, these people kindly donated their brains upon death so that we can all learn from them. The one on the left is a normal healthy brain without any disease process, without any dementia. And then the one on the right is someone who passed away from Alzheimer's. So you can see, we saw in the PET scan, the activity level changes, but that activity level changes comes from the cells of the brain are shrinking and dying. And this journey from a healthy brain through the end of life with a dementia, the cells are shrinking and dying. The chemical production is waning and diminishing. And those are the things that are causing those changes we saw in that PET scan. So you can see the physical shrinking in this slide here. So I wanted to introduce you to, I mentioned her, to my grandmother. So I love to bring her in. I talk about her a lot. She was a big part of my life. She helped raise me. With my mother and I lived with her and my grandpa growing up. And she, of all the people, of all the, professionally, the hundreds of people, but, in my family, the many people I've known who live with dementia, she is the one I knew from, one of the ones I knew from beginning to end. So when I knew her, when she did not have any dementia, and then when dementia signs appeared, and she lived with us all the way through the end of her life. But the one thing that is also a great, she was one of my greatest teachers personally, but also with dementia, because when her signs of dementia started showing up, I think I wrote here in 1985, I knew zero about dementia, and neither did my family. We had no idea what it was. It just seemed like the phrases you would use in the old days, like, oh, you get old, you get senile. She's really losing it. We didn't, she's just being stubborn, or all those things we did not understand. Well, of course, we were doing the best we could with what we knew. And so I learned a lot from her throughout her journey. So in hindsight, this wedding picture of her with me was about, I would say, 1991. So at that time she was still living semi-independently. She didn't really get a diagnosis till the early 90s. But there were definitely signs in hindsight, things like the repetitive questions, losing things and thinking they were stolen. There are things that we just didn't understand at the time. So I want us to take a look at, to start, with how we traditionally talk about the different levels and stages or rating systems of for people who are living with dementia. Many of you, for your own loved one, have perhaps gone to a healthcare provider and gotten maybe you've gotten a diagnosis, it's Alzheimer's or it's vascular, and you may have gotten a rating. So there are many different rating systems, and we're going to take a look at a few of them. And while we're looking at them, I want you to think to yourself, and if you could take your own thumb and kind of, give yourself an up and down here as we go through them, like, how do you feel about that? When you hear that rating, your mother is, and I'll do the first one, normal aging. She seems okay. This is normal aging. The things you experience, it doesn't seem like dementia. How are you feeling like that? You have a pretty good diagnosis, or not so good? So just kind of do that to yourself a little as we're going through. Mild. This is very mild. Just at the very beginning of the journey. So how do you feel about that one? Mild. Moving on to moderate. Mild to moderate. Well, we moved on a little bit. It's still moderate, but it's progressing. So thumbs up, thumbs down. It might be thumbs middle. Moderately severe. That one is one. I don't know why that one makes me crack up every single time, but the difference between moderately severe and severe. Where are we now with our thumbs? Probably most down here. And then last of all, very severe, very severe. So these might be terms that you have heard. You might have, as a healthcare professional, you might have used as well. This is very, very, very common descriptors. So here's another one here. early, middle, and late. So when you think, so this is a three-tier system in this case. Uh, your mother is at early stage. How's that? How do you feel about that? Middle, late. Most thumbs go down towards the end. And then there's the numeric systems. And so there are ones that go to 3, ones that go to 5, ones that go to 7. And so in general, those first 3, 1 is the best, or air quotes, the best. 7 is the later ones. And then some are reversed. So 6 might be the earlier stage, and 1, so there might be a numeric system. So I want to pause for a second. I'm going to put up another poll. I want to put up here. Just 1 second here. So for yourself, for your loved one, I'm going to launch this poll. Which of these dementia rating terms have you been given or heard in relation to your loved one? So you can check more than one of these. So I'll put it up here. Okay, so have you been told they're mild or early stage, moderate to middle, severe to late, severe end? I kind of group those two together. You may have also been given a number. So you might have given a word, you might have been given a number. So go ahead and just, I'll leave this up as we're talking here a little bit to see kind of where you've been told, or even where you're feeling you are in these. And I want us to take a look at all these systems as a whole, and think a moment for yourself. Do they when you're looking at them, so no matter which one of these you clicked on this poll, like I'll share this out when we come up, but some of you are checking that you were given severe or moderate. When you look at the scale and you think, which of these would you prefer? Which of these did you put the thumbs up here? So, when you go into the physician again and they say, well, it was mild before, but now it's getting pretty severe. One level is always better than the other. We all wish that we weren't moving down the scale, because the best outcome we always feel is that it doesn't change, that it stays at the top. And the hard thing about all of these scales is that they're very comparative, and they carry a lot of judgment from us. One is better than the other, right? I asked you to rate these, one better than the other as we went along. They're set up to look at what is lost, which is very important to understand. But it's a hard thing it makes it hard for us to talk about. It makes it hard to understand what it exactly looks like. For example, I will get a call here at Halikuike, and they'll say, my mother is, I took her to the doctor and they said she's, has severe dementia. And then when I get a description of it, to me, it doesn't sound as severe as it might be, has seemed to the person who is calling. So it's hard to know. You don't get a real picture of the abilities that are left. So it's hard to know, especially the ones that are moderately severe, when it's hard to get a real picture of the person. The person now has these labels on them, and we have yet to figure out a way to reach them. Also, same with numbers. Numbers are very weighted. Everybody likes to be first. Nobody wants to be seventh, for example. So what I want us to do is to go ahead and, if you make a timeout symbol. When it comes to dementia, it's not about better or worse. It's about who I am as a person and where I am as a journey, and supporting me and valuing me equally from beginning to end. So I want to help us move away from this comparison and judgment about which is better, and to see if we can find a way to have a common language and treasure each person all along the way. So I'm going to end this poll real quick here before we move on and share, so people can see. This one I will share out and share results here, so you can see. So some people have been given numbers. More people have been given primarily words here, and you can kind of see a little temperature taking of where people are in their journey with their loved ones here. Okay, I'm going to put this on the side here. Here we go. So we're going to we're going to be looking at this other system. Now, it is also a rating system, and it's based on the Allen cognitive levels, which is it's the 6-to-1 system, which is an occupational therapy system. And Teepa Snow, who is the founder of Positive Approach to Care, and developed this system for us to be able to look at it as a in a more positive way, and to also to include ourselves in this journey of brain change. So before we start talking about the specifics of the brain change, I want us to look at this GEMS wheel here. So the top one here is the sapphire. So it starts at 12 o'clock basically, and then goes around clockwise. Then diamond, emerald, amber, ruby, and pearl. So there's 6 gems in this wheel. So if you take a look at each of these gems, and just look at them as the gemstones. You could picture a piece of jewelry made out of them, or if you were able to hold one of these under the light, are there any of these that you would consider not beautiful, not unique, not something that you would want to have in a ring, or to be able to give as a gift to someone? Each of these gems is very precious. Also, they're very familiar gems to us. We all know what color is a sapphire? Blue. How expensive are diamonds? Very. The traits of them. If anybody asked you to describe these gems, you could give a little description of what is a pearl, what is a ruby. So these gemstones and their characteristics is what we're going to look at to correspond to different steps of the journey. So the top one, the sapphire, that one, go ahead and give your brains a nice loving hug. Your brain is on this journey as well. We're all carrying our brains through our lives, and they are aging with us. I know the outside is obvious aging, but the inside ages too. And there is normal aging brain change that is not dementia. And so our brains, we have to love and understand as well. So they are included in this GEMS wheel. We'll be looking at those changes. And we, the sapphire gem, are the one that's here to help and support the other gems in the wheel. So from the earlier portion of the journey of living with dementia, diamond, all the way through towards the end of life with the pearl stage. I'm going to stop sharing this result here. Here we go. And go forward a little bit here. So, as I mentioned, so sapphire is the very first one. So if you look at the sapphire gem, the gem itself, it has, and here in Hawaii, we have so many beautiful blue things to think of. When we think of that depth of blue of sapphire, things come to mind like the sky, the ocean. There's so many things that we feel the depth of the blue. There's a phrase, true blue friend. As we're aging, our brains are slower. It might take us a little longer to remember that. What was her name again? It starts with a B. Betty. I've got it. I can still get it. It just takes me a little longer. I might forget why I went into a room, but give me a minute. I can figure it out. Or if I walk back and sit back in that chair, then I'll figure it out. That is all normal aging. So we are the sapphires. The diamonds are the very early stages where we're seeing more repetition of questions, maybe repetition of actions. I need routines. And what are diamonds used for in industry? Cutting, right? They're hard and rigid. They are formed under pressure. Coals become diamonds. And so the quality of the diamond is very sparkly and beautiful, has many, many facets. I can really, really shine, but I can also be very, very cutting. Emeralds. So let's think about the stone, the emerald. The emerald stone is now not clear so much anymore. The emerald stone, deep green. And that green, for us, of course, here in Hawaii, we also have all the foliage and so much green in our lives. Another place we see green a lot, traffic signals, go. So green is on the go. True emeralds, the emerald stone, natural made emeralds, not man-made emeralds, all have a flaw in them. And that's just how they are. Man-made emeralds can be perfect, but real emeralds have a flaw. So this is a trait that we can remember for people who are moving down the wheel towards the emerald gem state, that they have flaws inside, and they're making mistakes, but they are not aware of them. I don't realize I am having these flaws, and I am on the go. I might not know where, but I'm on the go. The next one, amber. So if we think about amber, the stone, it's a little different than the others because it's actually made from organic matter. It's the sap. Everybody remember Jurassic Park? The sap comes down the tree, captures that mosquito that they used to make all the dinosaurs, but it captures a moment in time. It's fossilized, turns into amber, the stone that we know. And amber, for me, amber is actually one of my favorite gemstones. It's also has a special place in my heart in terms of a dementia gem state. I am in the moment. I am all about the now, and I'm all about sensations, what I feel, I'm all about the now. We're going to go deeper into each of these. The next one, ruby. So ruby if you think about ruby the stone. So I want us to think about ruby the stone, the depth of that color, the intensity. Oh, I'm going to take one step back. I almost forgot. So in the stoplight sequence, green is go, yellow is caution. And then we move to red, stop. So if we think about the color red and the ruby, stop. Things are stopping. My fine motor skills are stopping. I have trouble getting started. And if I'm going, I have trouble stopping. I've really lost my fine control. And then the last one, pearls. So if you think about pearls, you want to make with your hand a little oyster shell. You take a look on the outside. What does that look like? The shell is pretty gnarly looking and sharp, really hard to open. You might not, I'm not sure who the first person who figured out what was in there, but you might not think, oh, there's something beautiful inside. For the pearl state, towards the end of the journey with dementia, the outside, the shell, our bodies have really changed, and they can be very hard to look at. I am very, very thin. This might be skin and bones, but that pearl, open it up a little bit, look inside your pearl, it's still there. But how can we get connected, even at this stage where I am closing down? So each of these gem states is purposeful to help us connect the qualities that we know so well of each of these gemstones, and the beauty of each of these, holding the beauty of each of these stones in our hand, and having it be representative of the person that we love and care for, and recognizing what these different gem states need and their abilities are, and how we can meet them. So I'm going to go forward a little bit here. So it's not, in terms of working and helping people with dementia, it's not all about the loss. It is not untreatable, and by that I mean it is not curable, but we can do things in our approach, with our understanding, and ways to help and support that can really help make life better for people who are living with dementia. And it is not unpredictable. There are things that things don't just come out of nowhere. And if we can take a moment to pause and step back, we can figure out what things are triggers, where it's coming from. If we understand how the different gem states perceive the world, which is very different than we do, we can join them on their journey and figure out how to help. And lastly, it doesn't just affect the person who's living with dementia. It's all of us. If one person's living with dementia, you make a big circle, everybody around them is living with it as well. It affects all of us. We're not walking this journey alone. So this one we talked about a little bit already. Why use the gems instead? To really hold them as precious and unique, and have a positive common language that we can share. So rather than my saying to you, your loved one lives at Halekwiki, for example, your mom has been at the Emerald Gem State for quite a while now. She's really, really been on the go and been very active. As we know, we can laugh about that a little bit, but things have changed, and really she's starting to get more towards the ruby stage now. So maybe she skipped over or skipped past the amber stage. It's a way for us to talk, and we can now focus on the beautiful qualities of that new state and what still remains with that gem state. Based on the Allen cognitive levels here, we may have put that one already. Okay, I'm going to go forward here. So we are going to look at, so we take a look now at each of the gems, their characteristics, abilities, and things that can help, because a lot of the different parts of your brain are going to go forward here. So if you touch the front, your executive function in the front, your higher thinking, your good judgment, all of that here, your impulse control. Then if you touch the left-hand side of your brain, higher language, right-hand side, the rhythm and automatic speech, poetry, prayer, all those things, your vision. I'm having you touch all over your brain, your sensory motor strip. All those things are changing through the journey of dementia. And we want to take a look as we go through these different gems, what's different and how we can help. We'll have to make adjustments. We, the sapphires, are the ones who have the healthy brains and are the ones who can be flexible and can change. But I'm going to pause here for a moment, because while we are the sapphire, the people in sapphire state who can choose, who can be flexible, I want to acknowledge this moment in time that we are all in, this time of global pandemic. It is an extreme amount of stress and grief and challenges for all of us, each of us uniquely, and all of those we love. Stress is hard on our brains, and as I mentioned before, diamonds are formed under stress. Even we who are living with normal aging brains might have some cognitive challenges sometimes. You may have noticed more lately that it might be harder for you to remember things or harder to focus. Stress, I want us to acknowledge that we're all under a great deal of stress right now. And so we are going to, everybody take a deep breath. Breathe it out. We're going to do it a couple times. One more time. This is for you. Because for us to be there, to be able to offer that help and support to all of our other gems that we love, we have to care for and love our own brain and take those moments to breathe, to do things that are caring for ourselves, because for us to be able to help another, kind of like that oxygen mask for yourself before you put it on others, we need to help ourselves be able to maintain our healthy brains, because the people that we are caring for can't do it without us. So we're going to move forward here to diamonds. So we talked a little bit about the diamonds in terms of them being sharp and cutting. So still clear. So this is early stage. So when I say still clear, the diamond, of course, is a beautiful, sparkly, clear thing. You caring for your mother, for example, with my grandmother, it's like we see the challenge she's having, but when one of my uncles would call her on the phone and have a wonderful conversation with her, he would get back on the phone with my mother and say, "Gosh, I don't know what you're talking about. Mom seems fine. She was sharp. I don't know what you're talking about." So people, and it's so infuriating for you as the direct caregiver. Like, what are you talking about? Because I can still shine and under without being under any additional pressure and being in a familiar social situation, I can still do a lot. I can have a lot of great conversations. I can do a lot of chit-chatting. But if anything's different, I can be very hard and rigid and inflexible, because my brain is changing and routine helps me get from moment to moment. If everything is just the same, then I can make it work. But if anything changes and you think I'm being stubborn and rigid, and I was always kind of a stubborn person, but now it's a lot worse. But it's my brain changing and trying to cope with the world. And when things aren't working, I can be cutting and seem very mean at times, because I just can't do it. And And that can be a really tough, this is a gem state where there's often a lot of headbutting, because perhaps we might not recognize it. And for example, with my grandmother, we didn't really understand what was going on. We didn't know that it was dementia. It just seemed like, she was being an ordinary old lady in the old words. The last one, all the dollar signs. We all know that of all the gems in this gem wheel, this is the most expensive one. This is another early thing, might be an obsession with money. I don't have the money to pay for this. I can't, where looking for money in my purse. Just like I'm fixated on money, and they're oftentimes not having it or someone stealing it. It's just a part of the changes that are going on in my brain. And again, it relates to the diamond. So if you think of that as it's a characteristic that you can relate to this stage. So the emeralds, as we're moving forward. So while I mentioned in the diamond state that you might be able to, at that point, not acknowledge, or some people might be able to not acknowledge that there is brain change going on because they are so clear. At the emerald state, it is not clear anymore. That is not a clear stone. That is a colored stone. I am not sharp. I might be getting vague. My language starts to get, I'm looking for the one, the one that you had the other day. Yes, you know what it is. And I get frustrated because you're not understanding what I'm saying, because I am being very vague. Communication starts to be more of a challenge. And I'm making mistakes, like I said, and I don't realize it. And when you point them out to me, I get pretty pissed off about it. I'm just fine. I'm a perfectly good driver. My grandmother would clip the garbage truck, the old guy standing on the back, and we didn't realize that she was having issues with her peripheral vision and judgment changes. We thought she was just a bad old driver, but older drivers get a bad rap, I would say. But we didn't recognize that, and she could not recognize that she was making mistakes. And that's a hard one, because we see the mistakes so clearly. It is clear as day to us that, your purse does not belong in the freezer, for example. But one of the things with the brain changes with dementia is it takes away my ability to self-assess. So you and I can look in the mirror and say, yes, I'm good at this. No, I'm not so good at that. Yes, I made this mistake. I am not able now to do that self-assessment. I seem fine. I don't know what you're talking about. I've driven my whole life. I thought you had to drive. Yeah, it becomes really, really hard. You will argue and argue and argue with me. And by the way, I wonder if anybody, they think to yourself, has ever won one of those arguments with someone living with dementia. Have you ever been able to, when that pause, when you find yourself saying the same thing over and over again and butting heads, pause and step away. Take a deep breath, because they cannot change what's happening in their brain, and you're not going to win that argument. Their reality is their reality, and it's up to us to make that adjustment and work with them without the headbutting. So amber, yellow, caution. Amber, caught in a moment. So we're all about sensation. When I say that, I mean, I have a high need. I want to, if we were here in person, I would be walking around and touching you all and smiling at you. I have no sense of personal boundaries. And I need that sensory input. I'll touch things, I'll put them in my mouth, possibly things that might not be edible. But I have a low sensory tolerance. So when you are trying to help me, especially in those high sensory areas, mouth, nose, feet, toes, fingers, genitals, those are all areas. Where do we do all personal care? Those areas, toothbrushing, right? Showering, toilet, bathroom helping, nail clipping. It's overwhelming sensation, and I will pull away from that. So it's the amber state is one of the most challenging in that I will wear you out. I have zero safety awareness. Not unlike very young children. Who's in charge of safety? Not me. I don't realize what a danger I can be to myself and others. And it's not because I'm trying to be this way. It is just that I'm experiencing the world and I still have a lot of curiosity and I don't have any safety awareness. So when we're reaching this is where the red flag can come up. It's just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to connect. Here we go. And then the rubies. So the ruby has hidden depths. And even though there's a red light on the fine motor, so put your hands up like this. And if you take your first three fingers, So these are your fine motor skill fingers. So thread a needle, right? Threading a needle is a fine motor skill. Holding your fork like that, working your chopsticks even, things like that. These are your fine, button, those are fine motor skills. And then if you take your hands in these last two fingers, squeeze them down. So pliers, hammer, opening a jar. These are our strength fingers. So all dementias start to affect your fine motor skills first, but strength fingers remain. So whereas I used to eat this way, you might notice me using my hand more this way, for example. But the fine motor is not just fingers, fine motor in my feet, fine motor in my mouth. I might not be able to move my food around properly much as well before my pocket, and my lips aren't as good as holding it in. So all the fine motor starts to falter, and my wake sleep patterns are changing as well. So it really starts to affect my motor ability. And then the last one here, there's the pearl. So at the pearl stage, I'm starting to withdraw internally into my shell, and the shell is my body. And as the journey through dementia goes through living with dementia, you might notice I'm sleeping more. And by the time I get to pearl, I might be sleeping quite a lot. And most of the time, I might have me contracted as well. So I'm curled up like this. My muscles can contract, but they can't uncontract. I'm really shut in, and it's very, very hard to connect. I'm more primitive reflexes than before on the outside. But I want you to take the shell and take a look at the shell on the outside. It's so easy to focus only on the shell. We have to take care of the shell. We have to get this body clean. We got to lift this up. And I'm so contracted. And you lift it, and I don't want to yell too loud on the microphone, but I'll like moan and yell, and it's painful for me because my muscles are so contracted. So if we take a breath and find a way to connect with the person at this stage, through deep, gentle touch, to be able to reach that moment when that pearl can open. You can connect, and they can, where it might be vague and not be able to focus on you for a moment, they're there, and they see you, and maybe a finger comes up and your eyes can meet, and there's that moment. Maybe there's a tear, but it's a real, true moment of connection. And then the shell closes again. And that doesn't diminish that moment. They are who they were, but they're different. They are still there. They are still our mothers and our fathers and sisters, and in my case, grandmother, all the way to the end. So I'm going to bring my grandmother back to the picture. So this is her and her sister Gladys. So they were both born in Japan, and some of these little facts I put up before. So you saw her in about 1991 at my wedding. She could no longer live independently, and by 1992 she moved up with my parents, but she didn't pass away until about 2001. So her journey with dementia symptoms was quite long, from 85 until 2001. And in terms of her GEMS journey, each person, as I mentioned before, is unique and goes through their journey differently, and that was true of my family members and residents Halikuki. But she stayed at the diamond and then emerald stage for almost her whole life, until I would say 1999, moving to Ruby and quickly to Pearl to pass away. So not every person is going to go through all the gems in the same way. Someone might be earlier in the wheel, and other causes might contribute to passing away, which not the full journey of dementia. But I wanted to share about my grandmother's end of life and her sister, and which is why I put this slide up with her picture. This is at my son's first birthday party in 1996. Um, but so the Japanese was their first language, and the two sisters the Gladys lived in Kahala, and my grandma and my whole family, and I still do, lived in Hauula, so it was like city mouse, country mouse, those two sisters. And Gladys did not like to ride in cars, so we always went to visit her. So my whole life, it was very exciting to go to her place because they had a pool. Anyway, so but towards the end of when my grandmother was getting close, in the later years of her life, she started to revert more back towards speaking Japanese and less English. And my mother and I were both not very good at Japanese. My mom got kicked out of Japanese school as a young girl, and then I took a couple years in high school, which did not get me very far. By the time the 90s came, I'd forgotten most all of it. But anyway, so when she was getting close to the end of her life, under hospice care, my cousin drove my Auntie Gladys out to Hauula to be able to see her. And my grandmother at that point was very, very contracted and bedbound. And we were not able to really connect with her. We would hold her hand, but we weren't able to get any kind of eye contact or sign that we knew that she was there, or that she knew that we were there. And then her sister came, and when Gladys came into her bedroom and started speaking to her in Japanese and went over and held her hand, you could see her open her eyes and look at her and say something. Don't know what. I don't know if it was most likely not comprehensible, but that shell opened, and she were there, and the two of them, she was Dorothy, her sister, and they were connected. And it was true meeting of those two minds. Hearing her voice, hearing that language, it was really, really moving. And I've told the story many times, and I get choked up every single time. But so she passed away. So my aunt left. She probably stayed for maybe 30 minutes or so with her. And the very next day she passed away. And she had been pretty close. So, that I would say, of all the lessons my grandmother taught me about dementia, that was, I think, one of the greatest ones, that she was still there. And the people that we love and care for professionally, personally, even though there's so many changes in their brains, they really are still there. And we can reach them and connect them and love them and value them as much as when they had healthy brains. Because just because I have a degenerative brain disease doesn't make me any less of a human being. So I want to go to the next one here. I want to do a little quick review here. You did the pre-test. So the changes in my brain that caused me and my grandmother to ask the same questions over and over again. For you, it's the 50th time I've asked this, but for me, it's the first. So reminding me of it is not, if I could remember that I'd asked it before, I wouldn't be asking it again. So this one is false. The best solution, reminding it usually will only lead to that kind of headbutting that I was talking about. It's like, no, I didn't tell you. You didn't tell me before. We talked about this one a little bit, arguing, correcting. You are never going to win that argument. And when you point out, that I've spilled my juice on my shirt, no, this is a clean shirt. We are just going to argue and argue, and we're not going to get anywhere. So stop, take a step back, take a deep breath. It's really hard to not correct people, and it's really hard to not try and convince them that you are right. It's really, really hard. But being able to let go of that will go a long way for both of you. Um, Giving strong orders to a person in the early stage of dementia is the best way to ask them to do something. So if we think back to that rigid diamond, that rigid, so, and also to ourselves, how many people like being given strong orders? We are having a hard time following. In this pandemic, we're given a lot of orders and it's not so easy to follow, but nobody likes to be ordered around. So finding a way to rephrase it so that it's not me telling you like a parent, or me giving you the feeling I'm trying to boss you around. So that one is false. Sometimes you have to wait a long time for a person living with dementia to respond to you. Yes, the brain changes you saw in the PET scan, and even in the early stages, our processing speed gets slower and slower. So when you ask me a question, you may need to pause and wait a number of seconds. And that silence is hard for us. We get uneasy in silence, but it helps me to count in my head 1,000, 2, 1,000, just to give myself something to do while I'm waiting. And then the last one is definitely false, that there is nothing a caregiver can do to communicate the end stage. There are many ways to communicate. We're doing one way right now, which is you're looking at me on camera and I'm talking and giving you visual cues and verbal cues, but there's touch as well. There's music. There's so many different ways that we can connect. And at the end stages, there are ways as well. So this is with a handout that Jody sent to you. And so this webinar we're doing is a kind of an overview of the GEMS, but there's this handout will allow you to go deeper with more specifics about each of the GEM states. And the second page is something I really love. And the one thing I love about it is written in the first person. So one of the things we really strive to do at the Positive Approach to Care and also here at Hale-Kuike means House of Understanding, is to not just put ourselves in the person living with dementia's shoes, but like in their body. How do I see the world? And I like how these are written. So it's as if I am speaking. So for the emerald, I am flawed, and it is part of my being a natural emerald, right? I am not aware of my own safety or changing abilities. So reading those out loud to yourself to try and put yourself in that place and see what's different. So that's a I find a useful tool. You will be getting at the email with links to more information about the GEMS, resources on the Positive Approach to Care website where you can go more in depth, more tools. So if you, in the course of this, you say, oh, gosh, after this, I think my mom is an emerald. So what can I learn more about emeralds? There is more to learn. There's more the actual techniques. So we'll go there. So I wanted to share this video here. This is Teepa Snow. And she's doing a lecture here. And this is specifically about repetitive questions and stories, which I know something that many can struggle with. So I'm going to just play it here so you can hear. So she was role playing someone in approximately the diamond state. Whoops, sorry, go back. Okay, here we go. You press the right button. Oh, I don't hear the sound. Hold on. My moderators, can you hear the sound there?
Dorothy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You would have to close out of share screen and enter share screen again and turn on computer audio.
Oh,
when
I'm looking
at the share screen.
Okay, hold on. Let me redo it. I had it working.
Oh, okay.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everyone. I'm just going to stop share and then come back on share. Sorry about that. Stop share. Share. PowerPoint. Let's see if this works. Okay, hold on. Okay, I have share sound. I have share audio. I have the volume up. Okay, let's try one more time.
It's that little pull down when you start to share the screen, there's that little thing that says share computer audio.
Yeah, I have that on. I have that
Wow.
on. Yeah, I have share computer sound on. Gosh, I'm sorry, you guys. Hold on. Hold on. I'm going to try one last thing. Thank you for your patience. Just one last thing here. I'll get it back up. I just restarted the PowerPoint. Yeah, it's not playing the audio. I don't know why. Hold on just one second. Okay. All right. Well, my apologies for that. What I will do is, I don't want to hold this up here. I'm going to
Maybe during Q&A or something, if there's time.
Yeah. Let me go back to view current slide here. I'm going to go forward. If I can get those videos working when we're going through the end, I can play them again. I'll get if not, I can get the link to send everybody so that it'll work. So my apologies for that, being unable to play those two for you so that you could see. I think actually I'm going to play this one, even though you don't hear the sound as an example, because there are actually very, very few words. I know this video pretty well, so I will speak the general words that Teepa does. So this woman here is a woman who's uh, uh, a resident at a care facility and had permission to show her image. She is reached approximately the amber state, and Teepa is helping her comb her own hair. So I want you to notice her slow pace and then the simple words I'm going to use, but specifically because she's using fewer words, she's unable to process longer complex sentences. Notice the silences and notice the visual and touch cues that Teepa gives on this one here. So I will press play here. So we're going to help comb her hair. That's good. That's good. Do the other side. I'm going to show you the other side. So she's showing. Not quite getting it. Show one more time, pointing. And then she gives her a little touch. There, that's it. That's it. Good, now the back. Again, with the cueing. Yeah, the back. Touch, she's trying the same technique, touch the back. She's not able to make that, so she puts her hand under her hand and just gets her started. Now she's doing it. Thank you. Thank you for helping. You look beautiful. Can I give you a hug? You're a wonderful woman. So that's me dubbing dubbing the Teepa video. But everything slowed down. Lots of visual cues. In this time of COVID-19, when we're all wearing masks as well, we're a little impaired with our own understanding of each other. Visual cueing is even more important. So, in a summary, um, I'm so glad to have been able to share an overview of the GEMS classification system to find a way for us to talk with each other about the people we love living with dementia, that all individuals, no matter what state of being, in the right setting, with the right care, they can shine all throughout this journey.